Inside IT Automation, a ScriptRunner production.
All right, so here we are with another Inside IT Automation podcast with Chrissy LeMaire. We are at the PSConf EU in the beautiful city of Antwerp. Last day of the conference. Yes. Thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
I'm pretty sure it's a lot of energy that, 1 week here in the conference, a lot of things going on, and you had sessions which we're going to talk about as well, of course.
Got it.
So again, thanks. And before we start, for maybe people who don't know you, maybe they exist, I don't know, maybe a little backstory about what you're doing, where you're coming from, when you started to use PowerShell and why, and what you did with it in the beginning and how your journey went.
Yeah, so I have been using shells since the 90s. I used Linux, and then I did some scripting. I always loved scripting, like TCL, Tickle. I did a lot of that, some MIRC plugins. I call it Merc. My wife calls it MIRC. Are you familiar with it?
No.
No, it was just a front end for internet relay chat.
All right.
In the 90s, but I always liked making plugins and scripting, not so much like formal OOP or anything. And I had always mixed both worlds, both Linux and Windows. And I was really excited whenever I went to the developers conference in 2005, and I saw that they were introducing a new shell.
All right.
Yeah, that was Jeffrey Snover presented, and I was there. I was very eager. I met Lee Holmes. Actually, he came to my house, and I made him some gumbo. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, we were instant friends. And then fast forward many years, let's see, so that was 2005. It took all the way until 2011 until I was able to completely understand and integrate PowerShell into my daily workflow.
Okay.
I think it's because I came from a VB script and T-SQL background, and I just kept trying to apply the wrong things, and I didn't have a project that really grabbed me until I was working with Sharepoint, and there was this thing that took forever to set up, and it was 100 steps, and I was like, there's no way that I want to do these 100 steps over and over. So that one kept my brain engaged until I finally picked it up, and I remember thinking, God, I remember the day that I finally got VB script and it was magical, and I can't wait till that happens. And then one day I was driving, I was like, oh my God, I know PowerShell finally. Because in the beginning, when you're just struggling, and every single character that comes out is as a result of an internet research. So so 2011 was really the first time that I used it extensively, although in that was 2011. In 2007, I was a technical editor for Lee's book, The PowerShell Cookbook.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the theoretical usage.
Yeah,
and then in practice.
You could apply it into practice.
Exactly.
All right. And so SharePoint really was the first platform you started to automate things with.
Yep.
At that point, I guess the Microsoft SharePoint module, because PnP PowerShell was not around at that point, right?
It wasn't. So there was a built-in snap-in for the SharePoint shell, and it had a lot of really good commands. They're very useful, and I was excited to use them whenever I would execute that command, and so much valuable information came out. So you can imagine how blown away I was when, so I was a SQL Server DBA. That was like my primary technical area for a very long time. The first time that I loaded the libraries that are used to power SQL Server Management Studio, it's called SMO, or SQL Management Objects. And I saw all of these properties, and to me that translated to all of this power. And so that was, I think, 2014 when I first got into SQL Server and PowerShell.
All right, interesting. And then something must have happened, because then DBA tools came along, right?
Yeah. So at the time, I was asked to do a migration for SharePoint. And the thing that I don't love about SharePoint as a SQL Server DBA is that it makes 30 databases. So imagine if you want to copy them all from one server to another, and all of the jobs that come with it, or all of the logins, all of the properties. And so I was like, man, that must already exist online, because you have PowerShell, which is so powerful, and then you have SMO, which is so powerful. And so I looked it up, and there were just bits and pieces, right? Everything had a static path. This is how you could do it.
Yeah.
And I turned those into scripts, and eventually, when I understood the concepts of modules, then I turned it into a module, and I did a presentation in Belgium at SQL Days Belgium in 2015, I think, and that's whenever it really went public.
Okay, awesome. And I mean, it's I would say one of the most popular community modules ever, right, for PowerShell?
Thank you. I love that. You know, I've wanted the open source community to be more inclusive and inviting, and for a very long time. And that's something that I actually love about GitHub, is that it does, it brought open source to so many new people.
True.
And with DBA tools, it was really amazing. So I was always eager to have other contributors. And in 2016, I went to Portugal, and I presented there, and I met Claudio Silva, and he came and he said, I have this script that I would love to share with you, and then put it into the module. And I was like, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And then from
Nice.
there, we just really exploded. You know, we created the SQL Server Slack, and we all hung out there, and we built this together as a community. We were, you know, from the very beginning, it was stated that we would be very welcoming and help others, because we're all there, and we all enjoy the same things. We love PowerShell, we love SQL Server.
And the same challenges in a way.
Exactly.
And things
And one of the things that I think was primary for me was whenever somebody comes in, they're like, I have this problem. And then a lot of times online, they're like, well, why are you doing it that way? That's like the dumb way. And so why don't you just, you know, do it this way? And it was a rule that we don't do that, right? Because if one person is doing it that way, then another person is, right? And so it was made to be accessible and accommodating. And I think that's one of the reasons that it grew to be such a popular module.
I'm very sure. And how many people are contributing?
250.
250. Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
That's it's such a dream come true. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, of course, you wrote a book about DBA tools?
I did, yeah.
Right?
So that was also a team effort. So that was Rob Sewell, Jess Pomfret, and Claudio Silva.
All right.
We all wrote DBA tools in a month of lunches together. And it sold a lot of books. That was also, you know, I mean, just finally, everything kind of came together. I had open source, Windows and Linux all playing well. And then I had always wanted to write a book, because back in, I think it was like 1999, you remember the Rocks books with the red background and then the big picture of the author? Yes, right? So Robert Vieira wrote this book called like SQL Server 2000 Administration. And I learned so much from it, and it changed my life. And ever since then, I had wanted to give back in some way and do something similar for others, and just bring that excitement, because he conveyed all the concepts of SQL Server and he was able to convey all of these advanced SQL Server concepts in such a conversational manner that I wanted to give back in a similar way. And so Bruce Payette wrote one of the most amazing books, PowerShell In Depth. And I also enjoyed reading his style. And Manning has just such a high quality book. I always enjoy anything that I read from them. So I proposed it after the community actually suggested, can we have a book about DBA tools, right? Wow. So I put a proposal together, sent it to Manning, and they usually don't do like DBA tools type books. But they made an exception, and we were able to do DBA tools in a month of lunches.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is also a huge success, something that you're probably also proud of. And
extremely.
Being part of that.
It's really awesome that people really enjoy it and learn from it, and they say that DBA tools and the book make their day-to-day life better. And that's like one of my biggest joys in life.
I can imagine. That's awesome. And then all of a sudden AI came along, right?
Yes, yes.
And were you an early adopter or kind of
No.
looking at it? And I remember, I think, an online session where Doug Fink presented something together with you or something, or you were part of the online, and then you were like, "Wow, I didn't even know that this is possible." And then
Which one was that? With who?
I think this was last year with some user. Well, Doug does all these different sessions, and I think at one, I think you were there, and so wow, yeah, and I could feel the energy, like wow, I can do this and do that, and then.
So the thing is that I am bad at math, right? And I always heard about data scientists and data, all of this stuff. And I felt like I wouldn't ever be able to do AI because I am not a scientist in that way. I don't do math in that way. But then it turns out that it's just like they've taken all that math and they put it into methods and properties and all of this.
Normal people can understand,
exactly,
even me.
Exactly. So whenever I saw AI in practice, and what it could do, I just wasn't prepared for it. I am not a futurist. I don't believe anything until I see it. Just because, even my wife will be like, hey, what do you think about this chair being here? I'm like, you have to put the chair there. I cannot imagine it unless it's there. And so whenever I finally saw AI, I was blown away. I didn't necessarily see opportunities because I think my brain was still wrapping itself around the actual concept. I started using it as an end user, and now I can actually build AI tools as a PowerShell developer,
Can
which
you
is
believe
really,
it, right? It's awesome, right?
I love it. Magic.
And so fast forward. So in this conference, you did a session about it, right?
I did.
How to use
so I did,
AI,
right?
So what are the use cases that you talk about in your session? Why should people start looking into AI and applying it?
So there's, I have like the tech part and then the people part. And the tech part is something like a system administrator. As sysadmins, we don't just do tech, we also have to do business. So you have to write a change request, and that's super not fun, right? And so that was one of the use cases, is that you just say, hey, I am migrating a DHCP server from one server to another. Can you write me a change request for it? And if you have a template, you can upload that, and then it'll match that template. So that was one use case. Another one is I actually use AI to fill out SharePoint metadata. And I could do this both using PowerShell and Power Apps. Like once you actually know how to do it, then everything is possible.
Okay, and the quality that comes back is
the quality. So we actually talked about it at a round table, and there was someone who had worked with PhDs who did metadata because they had to, I guess, organize their own research papers.
Okay.
And he said that the quality of the PhDs varied from day to day based on if they're irritated or tired or just like not into doing it. And he said that he would trust AI to not get tired and just fill in the metadata appropriately. And what's really cool is that, so far, it has been totally accurate. Have I done it against 1,000, or 1,000,000 documents? No. But I matched it up and everything was true.
That's amazing.
So I had like fake legal documents, and I used actually a custom GPT to generate fake legal documents, uploaded that, and I was like, I gave it some parameters, and it filled out everything. It's magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Some more use cases that you think people should know where they can apply AI?
Right. So dealing with people, I think, is an untapped part of AI. And actually, I was really excited. One of the conference attendees, Danny, he said that he also uses it to deal with other people as well. You can use it to, if you're upset about something, but you have to deliver an unbiased paper. For example, if there was an outage that lasted way too long and you're angry at everyone, but you have to write an after-action report, you could be tempted to be like, and then they deleted the file, right? But what you can do is tell AI, hey, this is what happened, and I'm super upset, so, take it with a grain of salt, but can you please make an unbiased AAR, and that was actually my first experience with AI at work.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And whenever it came back and it took out all this vitriol and it replaced it with just neutral facts that weren't blamey, it would have taken my brain forever to figure out the words, and it would have been exhausting, right?
Absolutely.
But I was so invigorated. I was like, this is awesome. And at the end of the day, I had a lot of energy left, and the AAR was totally written.
Amazing.
It is.
Right? So, as you said, I think these are things people don't really know that they can apply to things like that. And just try it and see the results. And for me, when I'm trying things, sometimes it's like, whoa, this is really good. Yeah,
I love those moments when you're just no way. You know, the no way moments. Another thing that I used it successfully for was to get some employees some raises. Right? So it created a compelling argument, and that's really hard to do, especially because I'm a new manager. And so I've never written one of these before, but I could say, like, give me a classic template for writing, and then, and also ask me 10 questions about this raise situation, and it'll come up with the questions, and then I provide those to the employees. They'll answer it, and then it will take that and make a really convincing argument for a raise. And that is, whenever it happened, I was like, yes, I can share this, that it works. It totally works.
Yeah, absolutely. That's because you just mentioned compelling, one of my standard prompts is, because I'm German, I'm writing something, and then I put it up to ChatGPT, make it more compelling. Then sometimes it's maybe a little bit over the top, but then I can adjust it the way I want it. And it always gives, it saves me a lot of time.
I like that. I'm gonna use that keyword.
Yeah, so that's really something that I like using it, besides technical stuff as well. So, and then you wrote a book about it as well, right?
Yes. So I actually wrote to Manning and I said, hey, are y'all using AI? And then my development editor wrote back and she was like, are you? And I was like, yes. And she's like, tell us about it, write a book about it. And so I was like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. And I thought that I was going to use AI more to write the book, but with ChatGPT at least, it writes in a very dry and uncompelling way.
All right.
Specifically when you're writing a book. So I was able to do it. It's interesting that the task for the raise, maybe because it was concise, but for the book, what I was seeing were repetitive words. Have you noticed those? Delve, revolutionary. It was there were just too many, and I could recognize, oh, this is ChatGPT. If a recruiter reaches out to me, that's ChatGPT. And so I do use Claude now. Have you ever used Anthropic
No, I've only
Claude?
heard about it. No.
So Anthropic Claude writes, everything excels at something different, I find, right? So ChatGPT is a fantastic all-around chatbot, excellent vision, can do a lot of things. Claude is really wonderful at writing. And also just like talking to, like whenever my Claude tokens run out, I'm kind of sad because I have to go back to ChatGPT, and it feels icy now. You know,
in comparison, really? Okay,
exactly.
I have to check it out.
Exactly. So I do pay for Opus. The thing that's interesting about it is that it will replay your entire conversation every time that you chat with it to itself, right?
Okay.
So its memory knows. Like with ChatGPT, you might notice after a long session that it'll kind of forget things or it'll stop like following some rules. With Claude, it reads that over and over again, so the quality is out of this world.
Okay, wow.
The downside to that is that I run out of tokens all the time.
Okay.
So then I switched.
I see.
I did end up getting a second account, and I just like put it as a business expense.
So in your book, you're talking about not in AI in general, and not only about ChatGPT, right?
So the book is called Generative AI for the IT Pro, and it's written for us, for people who are database administrators, who are software engineers, who are program managers, people who have to do their, at least in America, at the end of the year, you have to do this like self-eval. So we have things on, we have prompts that show you how you can write an effective self-eval. And yeah, so it's both technical and people oriented. And actually, my AI at work presentation is based on a lot of the things that I learned while writing the book.
Awesome. And we will definitely have a link to the book.
It's in MEEP. So Manning has an early access program.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm writing it. I do want to give a shout out to my best friend, Brandon. He actually taught me PowerShell and SMO.
All right.
And he is my co-author. He's a database manager at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, where all the fancy people go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so what's next? Anything else you're planning in the AI space or other space? I heard you going to be engaged with the Belgian PowerShell user group.
Yes. So I had actually founded the Belgian PowerShell user group with Luke Deakins back in the day, but it takes a lot of energy. And I didn't have it, and I was so happy whenever Xavier reached out and asked if he could take it over. And for a number of years, I didn't have even the energy to speak. But now I do, and so I asked him if I could go and present about AI, because I really enjoy these sessions. And the future for me is absolutely AI toolmaking with PowerShell, and also like tutorials and stuff like that. So if you go to dbatools.ai, it is not a commercial product. It is something that I built for the PowerShell community to see AI integration with PowerShell modules in practice using function calling.
All right, cool stuff. So we can expect more.
A lot more. Follow me on LinkedIn.
Yes, we will put the link when we get online.
Yeah, that's like really the only place that I'm posting. And also, if you can add my blog at blog.netnerds.net.
Yeah.
I'll also be blogging a lot too.
We will taking care of that.
Thank
for sure.
you.
So, well, thanks a lot for taking the time. A lot of interesting information, a lot of inspiring stories about people, about DBA tools, AI, and they should definitely check out your book. And thanks a lot for taking the time. Very interesting conversation. And now the PSConf last day is over, so it's time to relax. Exactly. So yeah. Thanks for doing that. Thank you.
And I appreciate you asking me to be on your podcast. I always enjoy it. And
thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
All right. Bye, folks.